All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Curt and welcome to another edition of Fire Law Roundup. This time for, March. Hold on a second, I gotta fix this. Okay. For March 11th of 2024, I am flying solo. Brad is still on trial. Bill Macarone is in the firehouse, and Bill Podzes has some prior commitments that he wasn't able to fill in. So I'm still feeling a little bit jet lagged from my trip last week to Colorado. We were doing a class out there in Eagle River, Colorado, for the Eagle River Fire Protection District, or they were the hosts for the discipline class. And I really, it was a wonderful, wonderful trip, wonderful opportunity, and great hospitality. So I want to thank Chief Bauer and Chief Clark for hosting the class and helping make it a success. We had a good class, good size class, a diverse class. Had some folks from outside of Colorado, Florida. I think Florida was probably the farthest away. But overall, excellent time. But leaving me a little bit jet lagged, and I'm kind of getting over a little bit of a respiratory something or another. Not sure what it was. So, but I am here, and we are going to go through a number of cases this week. And I kind of wish I had some of the other folks able to bounce some of the stuff off, but we're going to cover it. I'll cover it myself here. So, first case that we're going to talk about isn't so much a lawsuit, but it is, um, a difficult situation in FDNY. There's politics involved, high stakes politics, and emotional politics involving President Trump and the Attorney General for the state of New York, who brought some fraud charges, civil fraud. So apparently there wasn't enough there to go criminal, but they went civil fraud, alleging that apparently the president, in valuing his property, overstated the value, which I'm kind of skeptical of. Think about a painting. If I drew a painting, what's it worth? But the same painting done by Rembrandt is going to be worth a lot more. And when you attach the Rembrandt name and so on. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure I agree with the outcome of the case, but that's from a legal perspective. It's really got nothing to do with the politics of it. But a lot of people feel that this was a political move by Attorney General James to try to damage Trump's opportunity to move forward politically for the White House. And she was invited to an FDNY promotional ceremony, which, that's up to the folks that are running the ship. They choose to bring in who they want. But at this moment in time, it is a little bit polarizing. But they brought this person in, Attorney General James. And when they introduced her at the ceremony, apparently many of the attendees at the ceremony, some of whom were on-duty firefighters, possibly. Again, I don't know all the details, but some were on duty, some were off duty, some may have been retired, some may have been family members of those who are being promoted, and so on, friends. So there was some booing and there was some Trump chants that went on during the course of that. And now apparently the commissioner has ordered an investigation into who was booing and who was chanting Trump. And there's going to be some sort of penalty assessed. They've mobilized their disciplinary resources. They have an organization or a branch of FDNY called BITS. Let me get the right name here, but it's the Bureau of Investigations and Trials. And they've been tasked with hunting down the people who were apparently booing and chanting Trump. So, this one is full of issues here. There's First Amendment issues. There's questions about whether or not, certainly if you're on duty, your behavior is a little bit more under the control of FDNY. So that's going to be sort of one issue. Another issue is if you're off duty but in uniform, if you attended in uniform, or arguably otherwise recognizable, maybe through unofficial FDNY attire. you're somehow affiliating yourself with FDNY. So those will be certainly some of the issues there. And then you have the issue of people who are, totally off duty, not identifying themselves as involved or associated with FDNY. They're there maybe to support their brother and sister firefighters who are being promoted. This is a public event. Certainly wasn't private. It's, open to family members of the folks who are being promoted and, maybe some retirees as well. So, it's a problematic thing. Certainly we should not be disrespecting anyone, whether you agree or disagree with them politically. But on the other hand, we have a First Amendment that offers some protection, less protection when you're on duty, less protection when you're in uniform. But we'll see how it breaks out. I envision discipline coming down. And I also envision lawsuits challenging any sort of discipline that comes down. And I think it's really it's an unfortunate thing. And I put in my post again. I don't like to editorialize in the post, but FDNY has better things, more important things, things that are going to lead to people being killed and injured and their property being damaged to concern themselves with, and not trying to hunt down people who chanted Trump or booed a certain elected official who was present. So we'll see how that comes out, but really kind of an unfortunate event for FDNY. Next case, we have a pro se lawsuit that was filed against either 2 or 3. It might have actually been 3 different fire departments. It was brought by a homeowner who apparently the fire department came on his property looking for some sort of fire problem, whether the person called, someone called. Anyway, the fire department ended up on his property, and there was some sort of an altercation that happened between the homeowner and the firefighters. The person ended up being arrested for assault and battery, and those charges were dismissed. And now the person filed suit alleging a claim under 42 U.S.C. 1983, which is the statute that allows people to sue government for constitutional rights violations. So he's alleging his 4th, 8th, and 14th Amendment rights were violated. Again, he sued a number of people, including individual firefighters and fire departments. 2 of the fire departments involved in the suit, the Mount Pleasant City Fire Department and the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribal Fire Department, were dismissed from the case, and that's really the decision that we're talking about here. Assuming that the remainder of the case is going to continue along, what we had was a magistrate making the ruling or the recommended ruling, and now the judge in the case making the determination that, the magistrate got it right, and I'm going to put into force the magistrate's recommendations, which are to dismiss those 2 fire departments for different reasons. So the tribal fire department, as you may know, certain tribes, not all of the tribes, but certain tribes that are considered recognized by the federal government, enjoy sovereign immunity. And this particular tribe does. So that gives them the out. In terms of the municipality, it was probably more of a pleading issue, the way that the complaint was pled. But the person, first of all, sued the fire department, and they're not a proper party. They should have sued the municipality. But they did not allege that there was a policy or custom that the municipality had owned or had created, was responsible for, that led to the constitutional violation. So based on the basic Section 1983 case law, and really what we call a Monell claim, that they did not properly plead the case in accordance with the requirements of Monell, and as a result, the case was dismissed. So it doesn't really get to the merits of the homeowner's lawsuit and whether or not he was treated properly or improperly, but really it's more of a procedural thing that, you know, you can't sue the tribal fire department, and the municipal fire department isn't liable under 1983 unless there was some sort of a policy or custom that led to the person's harm. So, kind of up in the clouds, you know, for the typical firefighter on that account, but certainly the lawyers will recognize what I was the lawyer speak I was just providing there. So, and just hold on a second here, just a little distracting window I had to close. Next one is we're back to politics. It's like you can't get away from it. But this one is a case out of Medford, Massachusetts, that has been the subject of a lot of political back and forth between the union and the municipality. And the fire chief reportedly resigned or retired some weeks ago. The mayor was under a little bit of pressure to appoint a fire chief, and apparently she wasn't ready to do so, so she appointed herself to be the fire chief, and this was at some point last week. Very quickly, she sort of went back on that, and she appointed a senior deputy chief or a deputy chief to be the interim fire chief. But right around the same time, and perhaps in anticipation or in response to a lawsuit filed by the union president, the entire matter here now is going to end up in court. Apparently, the parties had negotiated a collective bargaining agreement, a new collective bargaining agreement, and for whatever reason, the city had not implemented the promised pay raises and compensation. And when I first read the complaint, I said, this is going to get kicked out because any sort of claim that the union or an individual member hasn't been properly paid is sort of merged into collective bargaining, and that that has to be addressed through however the collective bargaining agreement says. So you file a grievance or whatever the mechanism is in the collective bargaining agreement, you've got to follow that before you're entitled to go to court. So that was when I first read the case. Kind of figured that this was going to have an early exit, and especially it was filed by the union president, but it wasn't filed in the name of the union. It was filed in his name personally. As a class action. So I said, and this is where I really wish Brad or Bill or either of the Bills was here to kind of bounce this off. But I really thought this was going to get bounced out quick. But then I spent a little bit more time reading the complaint, and the complaint doesn't allege a breach of contract. The complaint is alleging a violation of the Massachusetts wage payment law. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the wage payment laws, the wage payment laws don't define or don't explain what someone should pay an employee. What the mass wage payment in most states, or every state I've looked at has some sort of variation of a wage payment law. But what it basically tells an employer is you have so many days at the close of a work week to pay your employees. Once the work week is over, you have to pay them. And if you don't pay them, it's a violation of this wage payment law. And that's separate and apart from any sort of breach of contract or any sort of collective bargaining issues that get to the how much do you have to pay them or what do you have to pay them. This is strictly when do you have to pay them. And if you don't pay them within the time frame required, it's a violation of the wage payment law. So I don't think this case is necessarily going to have an early out. We'd have to look at the case law in Massachusetts and see if there's any past cases where the courts have said, look, this wage payment law is for people who are not in unions. If you're in a union, you've got to exercise your contractual rights under the collective bargaining agreement first. And then if that you're not satisfied, then you can come back here. So that would be the only question I think that's open. But generally, those wage payment laws, they really don't tell you what you have to pay somebody, but they tell you you've got to pay them within so many days. And assuming that there is a valid collective bargaining agreement between the parties, presumably the union could file a grievance over non-payment, and an individual member could file under the wage payment law. And you have sort of two bites at the apple, I guess. So we'll see how that sort of unfolds in the coming months, and hopefully cooler heads will prevail, and everybody can kind of put down the pitchforks, like just like FDNY. Let's leave the politics out of it. Let's just get back to work and focus on what's really important. At any rate, that is Medford, Massachusetts. Okay. This is next case is out of Indiana, where the fire chief is facing allegations that he did some inappropriate things in terms of video recording a female employee without her permission, and he made comments that made her uncomfortable. And there's not a lot of details out there, you know. I don't know. The allegations that I saw don't really, other than the recording, which is a little bit weird. But the comments on appearance, while inappropriate, I'm not sure that it arises to the level of sexual harassment. But understanding there may be more to it. At any rate, the chief had resigned back earlier last fall when the allegations initially surfaced. So. Again, I don't know much more about it. There wasn't a lot of details, a lot of speculation in the news media about it, and I really would prefer not to really get down that avenue, and we'll see what happens there, whether or not there's going to be some sort of a sexual harassment lawsuit coming or what have you. Last case here, this is the forbidden topic that YouTube will sanction us if we mention a certain word. So please bear with me as I try to avoid discussing what's really at the core of this one. But apparently during the, how do I phrase it? We'll call it a pandemic, and hopefully that word won't trigger the bots on YouTube to kind of zero in on our conversation here. But apparently, the city took the position that anyone who did not do what the city had told them to do with regard to their vaccination status were going to be terminated, or not so much terminated, but they were going to be removed from the payroll. At least for the foreseeable future. So I guess you could call that a termination or whatever, but they were no longer going to be allowed to go to work. And there was somewhere around 300 people. And the union filed a grievance. The case was heard by an arbitrator. The arbitrator ruled in favor of the firefighters that the city didn't follow the proper procedure and was wrong in terminating these people. The city apparently didn't appreciate that ruling, and in turn is asking the court to overturn it. They're alleging that the arbitrator exceeded his authority in terms of his decision making, and also that even if he didn't exceed his authority, he went too far in terms of infringing on the city's managerial and corporate powers, which would allow it to, make certain decisions, necessary decisions when there's the city's in financial distress and also in a state of emergency, which was in effect at the time that the decision making was made. So kind of a convoluted, difficult legal issue here, but we'll see. Generally, arbitrators have broad discretion to fashion remedies as long as the remedy is sort of based in the contract. In this case, the arbitrator did have to interpret the city charter, which apparently hadn't been interpreted by courts. And again, that's one of the reasons why the city is appealing it. We'll see how the whole thing pans out. Again, maybe there's a political resolution to this. Maybe there's, things have changed over the length of time since 2020 that maybe folks can kind of come back together and find a way to work, particularly in light of the fact that it's so difficult to recruit and retain firefighters these days. And if we've got several hundred people who could otherwise perform the duties, maybe that the best thing for the taxpayers would simply be to put them back on the payroll. And I'm not sure that the case didn't really indicate whether or not these folks had been put back to work or not. But I think, I'd rather see these types of things resolved face to face between the parties rather than through some sort of a judge who really doesn't understand all of the issues, but is just trying to resolve it based on the law. I think it's always better if folks can work it out themselves. So. And let's see, I think we might have, no, that's it. That is it. We've covered all five. So hopefully next week, I know Brad is on trial, and when you're on trial, it's almost all consuming. I don't even have a good analogy to what it's like for firefighters, but I think the closest thing I can think of to being on trial and the prep every night before the next day in court, it's like a promotional exam where, you've got all the books, you got all your outlines, you got flashcards, and, I know I even used to make audio recordings to play at night when I was sleeping to try to get all of that information into your head. And it's much like that. It's just like all consuming. So, hopefully we're wishing Brad good luck with his trial. It started last week. It's extending into this week. And hopefully we'll have a resolution on that one fairly soon. And maybe something else we can talk about. It's a fire department case. So hopefully we'll be back to the normal deal next week. And again, thank you all for listening. And please like and share, help us out here, help us get some more, marketing from YouTube. The more likes we get, the more shares we get, the more subscribes we get, the higher our ranking is going to be on the YouTube channel. So when people are looking for things, they'll more likely to come across us. So at any rate, that's going to do it for another edition of Fire Law Roundup, and we'll see you all next week.